Signaturetv, news in your pocket.
We come from a place of values, a place where hard work and discipline is taught early. We were taught that excellence is intentional so that we stand firm, build and do our work well, rooted in the knowledge of our origins and the strength of our people. Our stories are shaped by resilience, our paths are built on consistency. From the hands that create with precision, skills live here, creativity thrives here, excellence is practiced here, where every detail matters. We tell our stories with clarity and share our truths with confidence. We build influence with intention. Our voices reflect who we are and carry our identity. We build a strong foundation in the dignity of honest work, pride in showing up every day, strength in consistency, respect for the process, and strong value in our efforts. This is who we are. Rooted in service to humanity, guided by compassion, driven by responsibility beyond self, committed to life and purposeful in every action we take. It is not just a conversation, it is representation, it is preparation, it is intention made visible. And it is history taking shape from the dream team. We can do it.
February 14th, 2026.
International Conference Center, ICC.
This is bigger than one person. This is about all of us. You are invited.
Signaturetv, news in your pocket.
Health is more than a diagnosis. It's your lifestyle, your choices, and your future. Join us on Inside Health, your weekly deep dive into the stories, science, and solutions shaping your well-being. From expert interviews to real-life journeys of healing and hope, we cover it all.
One of the complications of cancer management or treatment is they have some of them, at one point in time, you see them having anemia. Okay, so you see them at times being transfused. But at the same time, you come in with a diet.
Nutrition, mental health, innovations in medicine, fitness, and everyday wellness. Whether you're managing a condition, staying informed, or just living your best life, Inside Health is your trusted guide.
I'm Signaturetv, and I'll be with you every week on Inside Health, only on Signaturetv.
Get plugged into the heartbeat of entertainment on The Hub, your ultimate show on eVibes. From trending stories and social media drama to top charting music, must-watch movies and exciting moments from the world of arts, we've got it all. Join us for unmissable conversations with your favorite entertainment personalities, plus fun segments every week.
I should try harder, so...
Okay, I don't know that one.
Outfit of the day.
Oh, I don't do that. That's some Gen Z stuff.
Oh, now you say it's a Gen Z stuff.
It's everything you love about entertainment, served fresh every week at 1 p.m. with weekend repeats just in case you missed it. The Hub's on eVibes, where the vibes never stop. Only on Signaturetv.
New every morning on Signaturetv, we open the day for you with needed energy, information, and required vibes to shape your day. From sizzling snippets of stories in various areas of life to intriguing conversations with net worth guests.
When you have people who have no track record becoming your leaders, you have a problem. There's no outstanding gratuity when Obi took over from me. I left, in all the accounts of Anambra State, 13.8 billion for him.
Your day cannot be complete without Signature Morning on weekdays and Signature New Day on weekends. There is no better way to start your day except Signature Morning and Signature New Day every day on Signaturetv.
Why the main market is in chaos. People are...
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye. Aye.
We have taken the move by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Get plugged into the heartbeat of entertainment on The Hub, your ultimate show on e-vibes. From trending stories and social media drama to top charting music, must-watch movies and exciting moments from the world of arts, we've got it all. Join us for unmissable conversations with your favorite entertainment personalities, plus fun segments every week.
I should try harder. So,
Okay, I don't know that one.
outfit of the day.
Oh, I don't do that. That's some Gen Z stuff.
Oh, now you say it's a Gen Z stuff.
It's everything you love about entertainment, served fresh every week at 1 p.m. with weekend repeats just in case you missed it. The Hub's on e-vibes, where the vibes never stop. Only on Signature TV.
New every morning on Signature TV, we open the day for you with needed energy, information, and required vibes to shape your day. From sizzling snippets of stories in various areas of life to intriguing conversations with net worth guests.
When you have people who have no track record becoming your leaders, you have a problem. There's no outstanding gratuity when Obi took over from me. I left, in all the accounts of Anambra State, 13.8 billion for him.
Your day cannot be complete without Signature Morning on weekdays and Signature New Day on weekends. There is no better way to start your day except Signature Morning and Signature New Day every day on Signature TV.
Health is more than a diagnosis. It's your lifestyle, your choices, and your future. Join us on Inside Health, your weekly deep dive into the stories, science, and solutions shaping your well-being. From expert interviews to real-life journeys of healing and hope, we cover it all.
One of the complications of cancer management or treatment is they have some of them at one point in time, you see them having anemia. Okay, so you see them at times being transfused. But at the same time, you come in with a diet.
Nutrition, mental health, innovations in medicine, fitness, and everyday wellness. Whether you're managing a condition, staying informed, or just living your best life, Inside Health is your trusted guide.
I'm Signaturetv, and I'll be with you every week on Inside Health, only on Signature TV.
One host, one stage, one historic moment the world will never forget. This Valentine's Day, love meets legacy. Signature TV proudly presents ENUGU to the world with a Guinness World Record attempt featuring Dr. Chigi Chiagoram. The highest number of interviews in 12 hours. 100 guests, one studio, one record. For 12 non-stop hours, we bring together 100 influential voices. Date 14th February 2026, Valentine's Day. Time 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Venue International Conference Center, ENUGU. Live on Signature TV and all Signature TV digital platforms. Be part of history.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Development Discourse. My name is Patrick Okibo, the founder Next Year. Next Year is a public policy advisory firm. We're focused on solving Africa's complex problems. Development Discourse is our platform for unpacking many of these issues that ail the continent. Today, we're going to be discussing the trouble with Nigeria. You see, Professor Achebe gifted a lot of things to the world. You know, most of his books, Things Fall Apart, Arrow of God. And my guest today is a keen, ardent follower of Achebe. He peppers many of his discussions with quotes from many of these books. I think his favorite, maybe Arrows of God. But today, the book we're discussing, or we're going to use as our jump-off point, is a small pamphlet, The Trouble with Nigeria, where Achebe really gifts to Nigeria an analysis of what is at the root of our challenges. And that will be our jump-off point. But just to a quick introduction of my guest, he was a Minister of Aviation under President Jonathan. He was Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps under President Obasanjo. He holds several degrees, a master's from George Mason, another certificate in marine and port administration from a university in Singapore. He has a certificate as well from Oxford University, a bachelor's from my alma mater, University of Nigeria and ENUGU campus. But what I find most fascinating about his academic journey is that after leaving office as Minister of Aviation, he decided to go back and get a bachelor's degree in law from Bayes University. And maybe a few weeks ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, he finished his exams in the Nigerian Law School and will soon become a lawyer, you know, to that extent. So I find that quite fascinating. And maybe in the course of our conversation, he'll tell us if this is the end of his academic journey or if he's going to take on a PhD. Osita Chidoka, welcome.
Thank you very much, Patrick. My pleasure to be here. Good.
Excellent. And so let's go back to The Trouble with Nigeria. I mean, it was published by Fourth Dimension Publishers. I know your relationship with Ato Nwankwo, you know, who I had the pleasure of meeting once in your company. I wonder if you ever met Achebe in your dealings, especially as an ENUGU boy. Did you ever run into Achebe?
Oh, yes. I went with Ato Nwankwo to Onitsha Bridge to wait for Chinua the first time he came to Nigeria after many years of sojourn in the US after his accident. And we met him at the Niger Bridge with Ato Nwankwo, escorted him to Ogidi, and then went back to Enugu. Second time was his 70th birthday with Chief Ojo Madekwe. We went for his 70th birthday at Bard College, where he was teaching at that time. The Iroko on the Eagle was the theme.
Yes.
And I had the rare pleasure of meeting him more closely and also meeting the world's greatest writers. Nadine Godima was there. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Wole Soyinka, name them, all the Africans of the African Writers series, and then American writers, what's her name, the Black woman who wrote Sula.
Yes.
So, yes, Sula, I've forgotten her name now, but she was there. And we had an interesting 2 days at the Bard College, just going through Chinua's literature and all of that. Interestingly, Ato Nwankwo made me buy a land in Emene Enugu. The land was allocated to Chinua Achebe, and he felt I would like to have that land since it was up for sale. So that's my interactions with Chinua in person and over time. I was so happy I met him before he eventually passed on. And I was one of those, him and the family gave the right to bring Arrow of God and Things Fall Apart on stage without paying anything to the company in London who has the rights. So they granted me free rights to displaying Arrow of God and Things Fall Apart.
This is totally out of context of what we want to discuss, but since I have you, what do you find most amazing about Arrow of God? Because you keep going back to it.
Yes, it tells the story of leadership, of hubris, and of something, I won't reveal that now, but something I'm writing about when to stop, how people have to learn when to stop. I'm sure that, using a more contemporary example, if Nasrallah of Hezbollah and Sinwar of Hamas had known that this war with Israel will go this way, I'm sure they wouldn't have done October 7. October 7 was an example of when they thought that 2006 would be replicated with Hezbollah and Israel in a war that Israel couldn't win, and Israel backed out. But since 2006, Israel had retooled, penetrated the organizations, had information, had even bombed, planted bombs in their pagers and walkie-talkies. That's how far they had penetrated the organization. If the organization had known that, I'm sure they wouldn't have done October 7. So sometimes in life, we need to know when to stop. So Arrow of God tells the story of Ezolo not knowing when to stop. Even though he was angry with his people, even though he was a wise man, but he didn't know when to stop. And that again is the trouble with Nigeria. When leaders don't know when to stop, when to say pull back and review the strategy and think about the wider goal and the bigger picture. But hubris is something that always plagues us.
And this is probably a good place to segue into, the main core of our conversation today, which is the trouble with Nigeria and what we can do about it. In that small pamphlet by the same title, The Trouble with Nigeria, Achebe starts with that opening sentence that the trouble with Nigeria is, simply and squarely a failure of leadership. I like how he encapsulates it in one sentence, but you and I know that life does not come fully packaged that way.
Yes.
Is that a good summation of our problem? And if yes, how? If no, what are the other ramifications that simple, clean, beautiful sentence may have missed out?
So it's I think it was a strong simplification of the problem. But Chinua arguments are quite valid if you read through the book.
Yeah.
He questions many things about us as a nation. So for instance, yesterday I used it at a conference where I spoke. I said, people say we should talk about reorientation of our national values. I said, we can't have national values if we don't define what is the meaning and purpose of Nigeria. So we have a nation, a multi-ethnic nation, a multi-religious nation. To what end? To share revenue allocation every month? To zone offices and distribute it so that my people, your people can get? That in itself is a recipe for failure. A good friend of mine told me what a Lebanese told him, that Nigeria is where Lebanon was when they were trying all this quota system. One Christian, one Muslim, one Shia, one Sunni, one Maronite Christian, one this. And today, Lebanon is ungovernable. It's an ungoverned space because it was a gradual deterioration. So a nation must have purpose. And Chinua said, why did we choose unity and faith as our national motto? Because unity is not a good in itself. You can be united to rob a bank, which is a bad thing. And you can be united to build a hospital, which is a good thing. Why can't we have concepts that are not available for dual purposes? Because when we talk about justice, there is no other way to use justice. So I think that his book, very small book, but really raises the right questions about it. Now, the solution that is purely the problem of leadership is one of the issues. We haven't had an enlightened leadership that looks at Nigeria and says, where do we want to go? Who are we? Why do we even have this nation, for heaven's sake? What is our story? Because the Americans founded their story: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The French said fraternité, égalité, brotherhood. They said it. The South Africans talk about Ubuntu. So what is the idea of Nigeria? It can be for unity and progress. United for what purpose? Progress to where? It can be for faith, unity and faith. Faith in what? Because you can have faith in God, which can be a good thing if you are religious. You can also have faith in your juju, which is in your room. And if you are not a juju maker, then that's not a good faith. You can even have faith in things that are inanimate or animate. So what is the faith for? So it goes back that the trouble with Nigeria is the lack of that thinking, which you may ascribe to leadership.
Okay.
It's a critical part.
How is it that even after 60 odd years, we're not able to really come up with this unifying ethos as a nation? How is it that if Chinua told us decades ago that our problem is leadership, how is it that we haven't been able to attack and deal with that problem? Indeed, how did this failure of leadership become a thing in the first place?
So again, I come back to the concept of what is the purpose of a nation? Because you see, if you do not define the purpose and mission of a nation, then anybody can be a leader. But if you define the purpose and meaning, then certain kinds of people will become leaders.
Okay.
And then the institutions will be built around protecting and deepening that purpose and mission. But if the mission, and this is where I said that Nigeria's history is a history of romanticization of the past, of a failed past. 1960 to 1966 was not a successful period. That constitution of 1963 was not successful. It led us to a civil war. It created problems. It created the Western region problem. It is in correcting the Western region problem of declaring state of emergency that the 1979 Constitution now says, and 1999 repeated it, no other way to rule Nigeria except as prescribed by this Constitution. So when Obasanjo appointed sole administrator for Plateau State, it was wrong. Our Constitution has no room for for suspending elected rulers. So we have no such rule. So the idea that we are a work in progress that we need to define. So let me start by being a little practical. In 1960 to 64, we created one region, Midwestern region. So the people in the Western region, those of them senior officers, they are left to the Midwest. Midwest had a lot of human capital. So they moved to Benin to start a government. And we had Osadebe as premier. But by fast track to 1967, Gowon moved us to 12 states. So Biafra was at war, but meanwhile, the 12 states took hold in the other places. So people that were not yet trained in the bureaucracy, that didn't yet quite have no reason, went home to their states to become permanent secretaries, directors, when they should have been assistant directors in Kaduna or in Enugu or in Ibadan. So now we dissembled to 12. And then the military after the war decided to bring this revenue allocation system that funneled cash to these 12 states without a concomitant need for revenue from the states. So the capacity to develop revenue, the institutions were now built around distribution. So from 1970 till date, our states are built around distribution of resource, not accumulation of resource, not the generation of resource. When we went to 19, 21, and then 36, you can imagine what has happened to the manpower recruitment for 36 states and 774 local governments. So when we talk about Nigeria failing because of leadership, we haven't also looked at what I call the structural problems that has weakened capacity. Then the second one is what I call the post-Civil War consensus. Let us create a Nigeria where no part can withdraw from Nigeria or can levy war against Nigeria. So there was a calculated effort to weaken the states so that the federal government can be strong enough, the Leviathan, to hold everybody in check. Therefore, if you generate power, we transfer it all to Oshobo before we share it to the rest of the country. If we have minerals, the federal government drills it for all of us and shares the revenue. So as the federal government grew in capacity, it continued to widen its capacity that the states. So now you go to every state, they say, we need a federal university because the federal government is usually the biggest employer in every state. But there has been no effort for the states, even the rich states of Rivers, Delta, Akwa Ibom. If you notice, they can build Lagos, minus Lagos. Lagos has been able to build some local capacity. They've been able to, because of the opposition they played 1999 to 2000 and till date, till 2015, they managed to build a certain capacity. So if you look at the other states, Delta State, with 60,000 civil servants in Delta State. And so they can't even think about paying higher wages or attracting higher quality people because the state is a distributional state and not a development state. So I have itemized two problems. One is the state creation with the impact it has had on manpower. The second one is what I call the post-Civil War consensus. That consensus is what is still holding sway. So now that we have found ourselves in this bind, and I will go on with others as we progress in the conversation, what I think are the structural problems that has made Nigeria the way it is today.
Okay, so let's dig a bit deeper, right? I understand at the independence, we had a finite pool of talented people. Then we start the state creation journey, and we keep, breaking apart that unit and sending them to the smaller states and regions that we've created. And it could have affected the skill level and competence, etc. But let's fast forward to, later, say 2007, when we have seen these things happen, and you get someone like yourself, who well-trained, worldly, dynamic, young, because you were really young when you went to, road safety, and you start that process of reforming the Nigerian road safety, which led to, quite visible, significant improvements, awards won, et cetera, international recognition, etc. Now, fast forward to where we are today. The road safety is not quite what it used to be.
Yes.
Isn't that a direct failure on your part, right? Because you should know that as you put in place these reforms, as you try to set up the institution, that you should also put up those guardrails to ensure that it sustains. So it's one thing to look at the past and say we couldn't build those skills, but in more contemporary times, you've done it, you went there, but it's not where it should be today. How do you explain that to help us understand why Nigeria is the way it is today?
So I will give you two examples of efforts to institutionalize reforms. The first one is something we call the excess crude account. It was created, accepted by everybody when Obasanjo was in power. It was initially resisted by the states. He got them teamed up, and we created the excess crude account, and it was signed into law that we will keep these monies and then we will distribute during the rainy day. So during Yar'Adua's time, we went there and drew down some money. By President Jonathan, we had drawn it all down. So the 1 billion that was remaining, we used it to seed the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Correct.
From the time we started the Sovereign Wealth Fund to today, have there been any payments by the national and sub-national governments to increase the wealth fund, till date? So despite making the laws, the distributional nature of the Nigerian state does not create the incentive to sustain those type of reforms. Let's take another one. We paid our debts and our balance sheet cleaned up, and we were able to take big ticket items. What has happened to us today? From 2015 to date, we are now the second largest debtor in the world. Again, we are worse than where we were when we paid off the debt. With benefit of hindsight, should we have paid off the debt? The answer is possibly no. We should have spent the $18 billion building power stations, infrastructure, and still be owing if we knew that this was going to be the case. So Obasanjo was an example of a successful leader who engineered growth and changes, but didn't have the sufficient time to talk about national culture and vision. So 8 years does not quite allow. Many people in their 4 years are struggling for visible, tangible effects to get re-elected. And then after that, you are almost battling to wind down. So you keep doing projects to have your name all over the plot. So thinking about the more fundamental issues about the nature and character of the Nigerian state. The third one I like to give is an example that I don't know what informed it, but that example is the example of a subnational sovereign fund called the Cross River State Savings Fund or something. I can't remember the name. Donald Duke started it, and it was agreed that every month they will put 50 million into this fund. They will use it to buy stock, treasury bills, and invest and grow. It was even so made that traditional rulers were required to sign off if you want to change the law. The State House of Assembly, you need 2/3 majority. This, that. After all that was done, the next government came and just stopped paying any money, spent the one in that one, and moved on. Nobody in Nigeria has remembered that there was a state who had a plan for a sovereign, for a wealth fund.
So what could have been done differently? What could Donald have done differently? What could you have done differently, mindful of the way our political economy is set up, right? Mindful of all these issues that, benefit of hindsight, how could you have ensured that that bureaucracy that started evolving, at the road safety, that it could have sustained, 10, 20 years later, so we become a very efficient, well-run bureaucracy?
In the case of federal road safety, I think we have even had more successes with it, in terms of that most of the things I put in place are still there. In terms of people still do computer-based testing for promotion. There's proper promotion examinations. I wrote the story about 5 of my different staffs emerging as deputy corps marshals, because in a competitive situation, they will win. So in that competitive situation, they won, one from every zone. They were all 5 people who have worked with me. So no matter, unless you jettison that process, because we altered the DNA of FRSC by bringing in ISO 9001 and making it part of the civil service rules. So we put it in the conditions of service. So now FRSC officers can actually challenge any process that is put in place that doesn't go well with them. But beyond processes and things is a far more serious issue about vision, about what is the purpose of this organization and how do we continue to achieve its goals. So my goal was that it was going to transition to a regulatory organization, working with state motor vehicle departments to handle, the states will handle enforcement on their state roads, driver's license, number plates, and the centralized data is together with FRSC. So there will be Last Mile Lagos, Trace in ENUGU, Anambra State Traffic Service, ENUGU, and all of the 36 states with their motor vehicle administration, and FRSC managing the federal highways and regulating these other bodies under a single policy. Doing that will require substantial political capacity to get and I got it approved by the National Economic Council, the state governors and the vice president as chairman. I got it through to National Assembly, even the plan to amend FRSC law to give us that regulatory power and to unbundle what was coupled in FRSC, because Nigerian lawmaking is always about establishment without purpose. So I tried to reframe the law to set our national goals for road safety, and then have an agency called the Federal Road Safety Commission, and then compel it and now give it the role to manage states, to coordinate states in providing, because there is no way a central agency in Abuja can man the roads in Obosi, in Umpo, in Ikotepene, in Yangoji, it was going to continue to grow into a humongous bureaucracy. Like the Nigerian police, it has continued to grow without end. So we needed to rethink that image. Now, again, it brings us back to the fundamental issue. we need to rethink our distributional state into a development state. We need to walk away from the 1970 post-Civil War consensus. And we need to rethink and reimagine the idea of Nigeria so that our institutions will be incentivized.
We'll come to that point. We'll come to that point because I think there's something ongoing in Nigeria today that could, provide us an opportunity to explore those issues. But I want to stay on politics for a little bit.
Yes.
You were, this last week, you've kind of trended that you officially left the PDP. And in the announcement I saw, you mentioned there that you were one of the youngest people involved at the formation of that party and that you decided to leave. Isn't that an acknowledgement of failure in some sense? The PDP was said to be the party that would rule for 100 years, and it lost, in 2015 and completely decimated, that it couldn't even muster an effective opposition. What is it about the formation and management of that political organization that made it difficult for it to come up with some of these ethos that you've talked about? Why the organization? What does it stand for? What does it mean for Nigeria? And why is it that just losing one election got it to disintegrate? If you could shed some light on that.
So the first light I will shed on it is that the formation of PDP was it wasn't a movement that evolved from an ideological struggle. But even that, I'm looking at the ANC and I can't recognize the ANC anymore in South Africa. It has got stopped from ruling. So PDP as a ruling party, as a party that is now in office, that was in office at the time, did not seem to have in itself, was not a party that had any history anyway of existing pre-government. So it was formed and it went into government. And then there was a president and there were directives from the head. So the sub-units of the party did not develop. They were just waiting for Abuja to say what is to be done and they do it. So now when we lost power in 2015, it then happened that a committee of governors now had to run a party. So with no charismatic figure on top and nobody with a clear view of the party, we now found a situation where each governor was now, what do you call them now, fighting for their own fiefdom. So there was no central idea. Everybody was contributing their own to make sure that the party protects them in their state. So by the end of 2019, end of 2023, PDP had become an unrecognized entity. It had nothing in its central authority that had the kind of chairman with the vision and capacity to drive an opposition party. It couldn't metamorphose into an opposition party. It continued to live in a delusional state of grandeur that it was just waiting to take power. So doing the work of opposition, providing the human capital, the type of people that will lead the party for opposition, the governors were incapable of that. The governors all thought about bringing people that will help to sustain their powers in the state. So ultimately, it wasn't a matter of time before PDP now became a party without, a soul and without clear objectives. So because everybody thought of it as a part of a whole. And I think that's where the party is now. So because of that, and I think it will also happen to the APC because it was formed and it went into government by 2015. So it's going to, anytime they lose power, they will have this crisis of sub-units that have no strength, that have no capacity on their own to go and look for members, that have waiting for Abuja to send money for election. So they will just sit down and wait. And once there is no charismatic figure who takes it over and tries to run it, support, it will go into the kind of moral and visionless crisis that PDP is in now. So the problem of Nigeria is now deepened by the absence of political parties to drive the changes. Yes. So that is a major challenge for Nigeria today. no political party to drive that future we're looking for.
Exactly. And it appears to me, reading your resignation letter from the PDP, that is kind of what you're looking to address with the Athena Center. And because I don't see how we build this Nigeria or solve the problem with Nigeria or solve the leadership problem without dealing with the hardcore political issue. And I can see that some of the work that Athena Center is doing, especially around elections and integrity of elections, is beginning to address those issues. If you could speak a little bit to how the work of the Athena Center is looking to address this trouble with Nigeria. How do you understand the trouble, and what are you doing with the center to address it?
So, at the root of democracy is elections.
Yeah.
And at the root of elections is the integrity of that process. So once that process does not have integrity, then we will be electing leaders who have no incentive to deliver public goods because they don't need the people to win an election. They need elite consensus and ability to alter the results to remain in office. So there is a major challenge facing Nigeria today. And that challenge is that for us to say that liberal democracy has not done well in Africa, in Nigeria, we must first of all practice liberal democracy, which presupposes, proper elections. So if you look at an institution like INEC, it has become a very shameless organization. Shameless in its outcomes and even in its process. Nothing bothers INEC that there are 500 cases after an election that went to court. INEC does not even set for itself a goal that says, every election we will want to see less number of people going to court by virtue of the integrity of the election. 2015, by President Jonathan not challenging that election in court, the number of cases that went to court that year went down, plummeted in Nigeria. So everybody in Nigeria realized and said, well, the election was fairly well done. But 2019 was less than 2015, and 2023 is worse than 2019. And now we're getting to the state elections that are growing progressively worse, the last being Edo. So it is because of the distributional nature of our state character. If we were a development state, INEC should be the institution that will be saying what I'm saying. Their audit immediately after every election will review weaknesses, will review what they did wrong, what their staff did wrong, sanction those who did it wrong, and then say, next election, we're hoping to see better outcomes. So I have shown examples. In Mexico, which is a country like Nigeria, the Wednesday after the election, appointed third parties will take a statistically significant number of polling units and cross-check the voting, manually recount the voting, check what was entered in the result before they can attest finally to the final results. So it is not a matter of go to court. There is no court. Court is when there are legal issues, not when there is election issues. So when an election is over, the opponent says, no, they didn't count my votes well, they didn't do this. INEC should be able to say, we have 7 days of an administrative process. So all the EC8A, all the EC8B, we're uploading it online. If you have any issues with them, bring it out. I told the story of going to Kogi to conduct a primaries. And one of the people in that primaries was Senator Dino. He was my friend at that time, still my friend. But the way we ran the primaries, he lost to TJ Yusuf. And we were in school, we were in neighbors in law school, we sat next to each other. If I had done anything against him, or if he didn't think the process was clean, of course, I don't think we would be speaking to each other. So INEC as an institution is shameless. Because where they are today is for them to say, no. In Edo, we saw that this doesn't match with this, so we're reviewing it. This is our final result after the review. They shouldn't say, oh, the law stops us from going to where it's now the court to decide. The court has no such time to determine those issues.
Okay, and because elections are at the heart of any discussions around fixing Nigeria or fixing the leadership issues, etc., what have you at Athena Center found to be the core ways that elections are rigged in Nigeria? And what can we practically, pragmatic here, not theory, do to fix those problems?
Thank you. This is a very important point. Very, very important point. Now, I have recommended 3 simple things to be done.
What are the problems first? How are elections?
The problem is that results are altered by electoral presiding officers at the point of entering what happened in the polling units. Some electoral officers, presiding officers, are bold enough to enter what did not happen. So they will, after they've counted 20 votes, 3 for Patrick Party, 2 for Osita Party, 5 for Musa Party, they will now go and register 200 votes. They will write 20 first. When they go out, they will add another 0, and then come to everybody's side and then add 0 zeros on it, or add 1 before it, and then determine a new result. So that's criminality in the face of it. But INEC's process of snapping the result and uploading has helped tremendously. If you go to any election, 70% of the electoral officers upload the correct results. Only about 25% to 30%, 22% in some places, 23% that alter the result. Unfortunately, those 23%, their altering normally damages the whole result. So first of all is the parties must have strong agents, and the citizens must hold the INEC officials responsible at their polling units, enter the correct result, snap it, upload. All of us will take our own snapshots and we go. So at the polling unit, it's easy to compel them to do that which is right. Now, what we also is that because governors or people come from a particular area, people in their area are willing to allow the results to be changed to favor their own. So that can be an issue. So what then happens is that after that election process uploaded, then we get to the ward collation. At the ward collation, the officers there again alter the results to favor the candidates that INEC is working for. So it is at the ward collation that the more egregious acts of subversion happens. So sometimes results are fully rewritten. Some are cancelled to reduce the opponent's vote. Some votes of the opponents are reduced, and one of the favored candidate votes are added to him. So the reason is that INEC does not upload the EC8B. So nobody has visibility. From that point on, we enter a dark hole. We don't have visibility again on what happens at the ward, the local government, until we hear the final results. So we think that the people at the ward, that is the place that we should do what we have been canvassing for, which is an audit. The electoral officer comes back with the votes, he comes back with the papers, used, unused ballots, EC8A field, and the beavers. So the electoral officer, the collation officer, is required to look at the beavers and confirm the number of people that were accredited. He is required to look at the EC8A and then enter the results in the EC8B. If he sees any anomalies, he's also empowered to cancel that result and say, this result has been altered. The accredited is more than what is on the beavers. So it is at that point I am saying that we should buy 8,800 scanning machines so that when the results are brought there, the ballot papers are scanned. It will confirm fingerprints, it will confirm valid fingerprints without revealing the person who voted, and we are going to then enter the results as from the EC8A, and they will upload it. So when you finish every ward, you upload the EC8A. Now, before we get to that ward collation, INEC used to allow the beavers accreditation numbers to be on their website. At the Edo election was the first time they removed it from their website. We no more see how many people are accredited by beavers. That kept many electoral officers in check because the public have already seen how many people are accredited. INEC miraculously and very egregiously removed it from public view. So we need to restore that to public view. After the collation at the ward, I don't think we should do any further collation. That result should be entered into the electronic system. That will just populate it. Yes, so we can sit down, everybody can call the result. If you're a senatorial candidate, it will aggregate the local governments under you and announce the results. If you are a senatorial House of Rep candidate, if you are president, it will aggregate and announce the state results. So we will remove 2 levels of collation and go straight that the polling unit result is only thing that matters. Once it is verified, so even if it takes them 2 days to verify it, everybody will be patient. In India, elections last 8 months.
Technology, yeah?
Yes, election lasts 8 months in India because the same equipment is what they move from one zone to the other. So they couldn't have bought 800 million people vote in the elections. So when they finish here, they move it to the next place. So the election is just going on. Results are being tabulated. Immediately you finish the electronic voting, third-party auditors just sit to confirm that what was entered and the EVM are the same. So they do that together with the voting so that when the result is announced, then that's final. So now, that for me is the 3 simple steps to take now. 1, keep the visibility of the EC8A, put the visibility of the BVAS online. How many people, even at the end of the election, once it synchronizes fully with the back end, INEC should upload the numbers from each BVAS. With the number of the BVAS, electronic number of the BVAS, the number of votes is accredited, upload it together with the ward result. At the same time, upload the EC8B of the ward collation after it's done. Allow for the ward collation to be the center for authentication of results and for third-party review. So NGOs, churches, mosques, everybody can be, you can select people in every ward to be present and to certify that what was done transparently, and these are the results of the election. And allow the scanning to allow people who question the results to be able to allow access. Look at the ballots, go and verify if there's any issue, come back to us. But INEC should be the first body to make sure the elections are proper, not the courts.
Just to push this one more time, an idea for you and tell me whether it's feasible or not. In one of your Athena Center reports, you mentioned names of, electoral officers who falsified with evidence, who falsified the election, right? Shouldn't we be doing a divide and conquer here? Let's say that, INEC, probably working for some Lord and Master, difficult to reach them. Shouldn't we pick out some of these individuals who probably collected little monies or whatever to commit a crime? Shouldn't we isolate them, take them to court, and prosecute and put them in jail as a form of deterrent for any other person who's invited to act as an electoral officer? Wouldn't that weaken that structure? And why hasn't it happened?
So that's the first question. Why hasn't that happened? Because the prosecutor is a federal offense. Only the Attorney General of the Federation can prosecute them. So if he's in the ruling party, he will never prosecute them. And only INEC is supposed to bring the charges. So if INEC does not bring the charges that there are people falsified results, then you have no crime. So again, it is the amending of our laws to ensure that, political parties and candidates in an election can take civil action against electoral officers who falsify results. So if it's not a criminal action this time, but you go and said, I could have won this election if not for what Patrick did. So I'm, charging Patrick for breach of trust, for not performing a duty of care in managing the result, and I am claiming damages.
Okay.
So the person becomes personally liable for the damages, and I think our laws need to be amended to include civil action.
Now, again, I'm really focusing on the practical here, right? Yes. You've been in government for, I almost said forever, but you've been in government for a long time, post your private sector work. You understand the inner workings of the executive. You also understand the inner workings of the legislature for, various reasons, and also the judiciary. How do we navigate this? So we've seen now that if we can change this law from a federal offense to a state offense or whatever else, it gives us the opportunity for NGOs, civil society organizations to engage
and escape from the law. So if we propose, as I'm proposing to them, and I'm engaging the National Assembly, to say you all are politicians. So criminal offenses require you to get a fiat from the Attorney General. It requires the Attorney General to prosecute, or we can mandate INEC to prosecute. But if INEC is working in tandem with their agents, they will not prosecute. So why don't we create a civil option? We can take a civil suit against them and say these people conspired, damage the process. So we can get fines. And if the judiciary is serious, they will impose very strong fines against them so that the people will know that, it's costly to go and tamper with election results. So I think we can build that coalition. I've been proposing that we build, one of the challenges in Nigeria today is the despair and the feeling of people that nothing can be done.
Exactly.
That feeling is a very dark one. So I have come up with the idea that we need to build a coalition of hope. A coalition of hope of those who think that Nigeria can still work. I don't think there is anything wrong with Nigeria as constituted. I just think that we have a software code that needs to be recoded. It is designed, the design is a problem. It is designed as a distributional state. It's not designed as a developmental state. So if we can redesign, and it doesn't have to happen in one go. It doesn't have to happen in one go. That's why I'm going to read the tax bill carefully before commenting on it. And then
but you have to comment, even if you haven't read it, because that's a question I have. Because I think we're seeing that, redevelopment of that software code, with the tax bill. That President Tinubu has really taken on the key elephant in the room, to say that the way we collect our resources as a people and distribute it could be the reason why we are unproductive. We should go back to getting people to eat what they kill. And if you can't kill it, then unfortunately you will die. And if you don't want to die, then you do something to fix it. So although you haven't read it, I need you to comment on the philosophy of it.
So that's what I'm saying. I cited it as an example of the possibility of realigning the code. And we may not achieve it in one go. I think nations are work in progress. It's a case of push and pull to keep inching towards the success. What I haven't seen is the philosophical redefinition. You see, when this president changed the national anthem, I've been in the vanguard of the call for the old national anthem. I've always believed we should go back to it. So when he went back to it, everybody was happy. I was happy, but I was sad. Because I didn't think it should be smuggled back into Nigeria through the National Assembly. I thought it should have been the subject of a robust national debate. So that when we say those words, it will have meaning to us. When we say to build a nation where no man is oppressed, it will be a mantra for the new Nigeria. I thought he would have given us the opportunity to canvass why we want to build a nation that we will keep a banner without stain and hand it over to the next generation. When we say that though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand, it will have meaning. Just singing it will not create it. It will have been a question of saying, let's rethink ourselves. This is a diverse Black nation, a home for all, a nation where we give opportunities for everybody to grow. That is why I have cited the example somewhere that a governor can go and pay $700,000 to an American international school for his children to go to the school over the next 10 years. And didn't see that the joke was on him, that you finished running a state and you couldn't build a school that your children could go to. So, and the fact that you could pay an international school in the country, let's even say you don't want to build it in Kogi, why didn't you build a school in Abuja where your children can go to? So, and I just opposed him as a governor, Governor Yahaya Bello of Kogi, with a businessman in Anambra called Ernest Azudialo, who is the founder of Next Oil, who went to Okija, his village, and built a Jesuit Loyola college called Gonzaga. This is his private money. But he thought that the children of Okija needed to be given an opportunity to get to where he is. He decided that of all the efforts he has made, one of the things that can uplift the people of